gender violation. And then if you go to this, we have to stop with Pune, because some of you may think that Pune is a city of intellectuals, but that is no place in corporate communication, especially in technical writing. Okay, so the next one, we use this word his. This is a gender-biased word. All executives need not be gents; there can be ladies also. So this his is not acceptable, and the next one he is also not acceptable. We have to make it neutral by making it plural. All right. Then if we go to the previous one, impossible is a word which is not acceptable in corporate communication. You must never say what is impossible. You must always say what is possible. This comes under the category called positive thinking and positive communication. If you communicate in a positive way, perhaps your listener will also be positive, and there can be productive communication. If you use words like it is not possible, it is out of the way, it is against the rule, against the law, etc., etc., you must always find it a way to put it as what is possible. All right. And then in corporate world, this word I will try our best is not at all acceptable, because in the Indian context, if you say I will do my level best, I will try my level best, the understanding is I am not going to do anything. I am just in a diplomatic manner, I am satisfying you, but I am not going. This is understanding which people carry with them. So never say doing our best and all that. Mention what you think is the best. Make it very clear. It is part of principle of clarity also. Make it very, very clear to the receiver what we will do and what you think is the best. Don't put any confusion in his mind. Okay. The first one, most of you have answered correctly. It is a very long expression. We call it verbosity, using only words. So in a meeting, you should say, gentlemen, I think Ram can do this work. Enough. If you go beyond this, then we are using unnecessary words. Thank you for your enthusiastic participation. Okay, I could see a lot of correct answers for this. We have spent almost 40 minutes talking about this effective communication, but it is worth spending. I exceeded the time limit by 10 minutes. It's okay. Now, keeping all these points about the communication and effective communication, we need to go to the second part, which is features of technical writing. All right. While discussing the slides, you may get some questions. Some questions. I request you to note down the question and then type it in the question answer box when we finish this particular section. I have about 20 slides to share with you. Let us first understand that general purpose English is very, very important. We have to be very strong in that area. And from there, we have to take a few principles and a few important features and make them part of our technical writing. If you can do that, you are on the first step to become a very good technical writer. So what are these features? First we will understand. And the next part is process of technical writing. So now we are in the second section. Now, anybody who talks about the features of technical writing has a very stylish way of saying the most important features are A, B, and C. Now you can understand very easily that accuracy is very, very important in technical writing. So it is given the first place. Next is brevity. You cannot write long essays because space is limited, time is limited. All right. Now it is our common experience when you buy a mobile phone or maybe a laptop or something. Sometimes it comes with a user manual, and the user manual is printed in such a way that they will be able to accommodate maximum instructions in minimum space, because space is a constraint there, very important constraint. So brevity becomes very, very important in this kind of technical writing. Sometimes if you have to give a proposal in the form of presentation, PPT to your boss or your department head, he will give you only 20 minutes. Beyond 20 minutes, he will not give even 1 minute or 2 minutes to you. So here, brevity becomes very important along with the accuracy and clarity. So next is C. So in future, we will come across this ABC many times in your career. Anybody who is not satisfied with your communication or with your technical communication will simply say, please take care of your ABC. So we have to understand that in this area, we have committed some kind of, overuse or underuse. So this is the first point, I want to put across. Now, because we want to accurate, because we want to be brief, because we want to be clear, we should not again cross the limit. We should not go overboard. So I have some words of caution for you. When we talk about accuracy, it is context based. Please remember, something cannot be absolutely accurate or accurate all the time. This is called a discretion or judgment, or in simple words, common sense. What is accurate information in a particular situation depends on the context. And context is nothing but the person with whom you are communicating or to whom you are communicating, or the place where you are communicating, and the purpose. Now, why do I say place? Let us say there is a sort of conference. Whatever happens, transpires between the dignitaries and the audience, that is all formal within the conference room. But during the break, people will meet at the dining table, at the coffee table, and they will communicate among themselves. There the situation is informal, and there you cannot be accurate all the time. Sometimes to get the friendship of somebody, to develop your networking, you have to be a little casual also. So being casual with someone is not a crime, but it depends on the place and the purpose. You cannot be casual while standing on the platform, but you can be casual while taking a walk with the person. But of course, again, without hurting anybody, without giving wrong information. So please remember this throughout your life. When we say accuracy, it is connected with the person, place, and purpose. And what is accurate for an audience may be taxing for another group. See, I remember the word taxing. In effective communication, we spend more time talking about this, because the moment you make your audience or the listener feel uncomfortable, you are going to fail, because the audience involvement is very, very important in making your communication effective. So you may think that something is accurate, but your audience may not think that way. You have to gauge that properly and decide how accurate I should be, or how accurate my information should be. All right. So in all these places, use your discretion, use your judgment, or use your common sense. I have some example here to make the point very, very clear. I'm going to project 3 sentences. All 3 are accurate. Only thing is, it is connected with the context. The cost of the trip was more than what was expected. This may be accurate in some situation. All right. Maybe your boss wants to know whether you were able to spend within the budget, or you have exceeded the budget. If that is the purpose of his question, then you can say, yes sir, it was more than what was expected. Or he wants an approximate estimate of it, then in that situation you can say the cost of the trip was about 2 lakhs. But when you submit the bills, you have to write the final figure as 1,97,345. There you cannot write about 2 lakhs. So depending on the situation, this can be accurate, this also can be accurate, this can be. If you are accurate in a wrong way, let us say when the receiver is expecting something and you are giving something else, then perhaps you will be taxing or troubling the receiver. And this is against the very purpose of communication, that is persuading the listener to accept what we say and do what we want them to do. So keep that in mind. In some situations, this kind of chart will be acceptable. The accuracy level is very high. Maybe if you are presenting some research findings, or you want the details to be put across, this kind of chart can be considered as accurate and relevant. But in some situations, this also will be considered as accurate because the listener, the audience is not interested in your details. They are interested only in the general conclusions. So this is also accurate. And another situation, this may be accurate, considered accurate. People just want to know the trend, that's all. Maybe the corona cases. If someone wants to know the trend, we can just show this. This is accurate information for the listener. But if he is interested in numbers, then perhaps you have to show a chart like this. Or if they want, very many details, then a chart like this. So just because, we put across the principle, being accurate as an important principle, don't get carried away by that. So for in any situation, don't tax or trouble the receiver in the name of accuracy. Now, in this connection, you may ask a question. Some of you may ask a question. If details are very important, how can I ignore? In that situation, let us say a small number of the audience is interested in details, but majority of them are not interested in the details. They are interested only in the trend. So what you can do is you can show the trend in your slide, or you can talk about the trend. You can take a printout of all the details and you can announce. I have all the details printed here in the form of a small handout. Anybody who is interested, please take it from me at the end of the meeting. Or if possible, you can distribute it before the meeting also. So what happens when majority of your audience is not interested in the details? They are interested in knowing only the trend. You are not taxing them with the details. So there won't be any, the so-called disconnect between you and the audience. I'm talking about this in an oral communication. In written communication also, if you're writing a report and say the findings are important for the boss or for the receiver, and the procedure is not important or the details are not important, you can give it as an appendix. You can give it at the end. So those who are interested in reading that will read it and spend time and read it and get the information. Others will read the main report and be satisfied with it. So you are able to make both the types of your readers happy. So take the word seriously. Don't take tax or trouble the receiver in the name of accuracy. I have seen this happening in many places, not only in companies but in colleges also. All right. Because people think that something needs to be communicated very accurately. They we have a very funny way of saying that people come and vomit numbers and go away. You should not be rated like that. Nobody should describe you in that way. So be a little careful in this direction. Next point is brevity. How to make technical communication brief. So there are some techniques which you must have come across maybe in your college course or maybe from some common resources. I'm just repeating a few of them. One mistake we should not commit in technical writing is using unnecessary words or long expressions when one word or one phrase will be sufficient. So we call it as avoid redundancy. Redundancy will be a common word for you. So when you say now at this time, this at this time is a redundant expression. This is not required. It can be substituted with now. The same thing applies to completely eliminate, mix together, and then empty space. Now, the problem here is what we listen to most of the time, we try to reproduce it when we speak or when we write. So when people around us use this expression empty space or mix together or completely eliminate more number of times, this particular cluster goes and sits in our mind and we are not able to come out of it. So when we write or when we speak, the same thing is repeated. We must take some kind of care about this. We must consciously see whether the words which we have used are important or required or not. If we can substitute one phrase with one simple word, we must always go for it. This is one way by which we can achieve brevity, which is the second feature of any technical writing. Now, there's a new tendency now, especially among the young people, to use strong words instead of weak expressions. All right. This is one way by which you can make your technical writing brief. Like, we have made arrangements for. This is a weak expression because this arrangement is, in the form of noun. But if you convert it into a verb, the impact will be very strong. So instead of saying we have made arrangements for, we can say we arranged. The listener will get the meaning quite immediately. In the same way, resulted in the development of can be changed into developed, in view of can be substituted with because and since. So this is one principle which you can remember, like using strong words instead of weak expressions like this. These are very considered to be strong. Now, if you go to Google and simply type, the principle of using strong words in communication, there are beautiful websites which will give you a list. The list will contain some 50, 60 expressions like this. And when if you go through them, you will understand how to substitute, weak expressions with the strong words. So this can be a part of your exercise before you join any organization. Now the next method by which we can achieve brevity, that is conciseness in our technical communication, is to reorganize sentences. See, just look at this sentence. It talks about some technical matter in 24 words. Now some of you can do this as an exercise. Uh, uh, I'll ask you to rewrite the whole thing using 10 to 12 words. Is it possible? Can you try, some of you? I'll give you 1 minute for this. If you can convey the same information using only 10 to 12 words, I can declare that you are, very good. You are on the way to become a good technical writer. Some participant has typed a question, can I get a certificate for attending this course? I don't know whether I can answer it or not. The organizer has to answer. But if you are able to rewrite this in 10 words, you can consider it as a certificate from my side in a lighter way. Let us see what you have written. I think some of you must have written in this manner. This printer has two interfaces, colon, and then the two types. If you reorganize the sentence in this particular way, you can save a lot of space. This is one simple method by which we can achieve brevity. Now, this is very, very important. Again, this is part of your discretion and judgment. Okay? Omit obvious information. We must always play to the audience, no doubt, but we must play to the majority audience, and within majority also the significant audience. You may be writing a report for, let us say, 10 people to read, but primarily the report may be for a particular person who will be able to take a decision. So you must keep him in mind. So if some information is quite obvious, you can afford to omit it. Thereby you can achieve brevity. Look at this particular paragraph. Yes. Now, this is a very simple example. Everybody knows about a bicycle. Everybody knows what a bicycle is made of. So when we talk about the handlebar, seat, wheel, pedals, etc., attached to a triangular frame, this is assuming that our receiver is either too simple or too ignorant. You can't take that risk. So instead of a sentence like this, perhaps you can write this way. In the last 50 years, nothing much has changed in the basic structure of the common bicycle. It is enough. When you say basic structure, your audience will understand what you mean by basic structure. You don't have to explain that. Now, there is a small problem here. The word nothing is used. Sometimes, people will evaluate your communication in a mechanical way. So they will say you're communicating in a negative way. Why do you want to use words like nothing, etc.? But here we have used the word nothing for emphasis. But if you want to satisfy those people also, you can put it in the positive. The basic structure of common bicycle has remained the same. All right. But the middle sentence, the second sentence is more emphatic, more powerful than the last one. This may be diplomatically correct, but this is more effective. So the principle is, if you think that some information is quite obvious to the audience, don't talk about it, don't include it. Then another way to achieve brevity is use annexures. As I have explained earlier, if you think that details are important for a small group of people, but that the small group is significant, you can print it and distribute it to them, or you can tell them, I will send it through email, or it is given as annexure. Okay. So using annexure is another way by which you can achieve brevity. So all related information can be given as annexure, or complex charts which you don't want to make part of your main report or part of your presentation, you can give it as annexure. Or the historical background information. Some research people may be interested in historical information, historical background, etc. You can give it. Or contrary findings. You have conducted some research or some survey and you have found some certain things, but another group has found certain contrary findings. You want to talk about that also, but the situation may not be appropriate, or the report may not be appropriate, or the proposal may not be appropriate. So you put it as annexure and attach with it. So people who are interested in understanding the contrary findings will go through that. Others will simply ignore it. Okay. So another way by which you can, so now from brevity, we are going to the next principle, which is clarity. Clarity is very, very important in technical communication. Sometimes our subconscious will play some kind of, havoc with us. We will read a word, we will read a sentence, and whatever is missing will be supplied by our subconscious. So we will be convinced that what we convey is complete in its meaning. Everything is very clear. But the reader doesn't have the same kind of understanding. He has to get the message, or she has to get the message only from what you have written, what you are showing on the slide, or what you are talking. So you have to be very, very careful. So one way by which you can achieve clarity is to look at the words very, very closely. It looks like Ria, am I audible now? Bad network. It's clear. Sorry, there was some interruption in between. So if you look at this, the word near may create confusion. It doesn't mention very clearly how near the window. It's a very simple example, but the concept is very clear from this. Another expression, drones are used in defense system, which has become quite sophisticated now. Now for the writer, there is no confusion, absolutely no confusion, because he knows that defense system has become quite sophisticated. Or the writer or the speaker may think that drones have become quite sophisticated. He knows, so there is no confusion for him. But the reader or the receiver, the listener, he will not have any clue to understand which has become quite sophisticated. Whether the drones have become sophisticated or the defense system has become sophisticated. So you need to reorganize the sentence. Defense system uses drones which have become quite sophisticated. That will be a better expression. Air pollution affects the Taj Mahal significantly. It needs immediate attention. So here the problem is with the word it. The receiver will not understand whether we have to do something about air pollution or we have to do something about Taj Mahal. This has to be made very clear. So because of these not pay, because we don't pay attention, very close attention to words, it may result in what is called confusion. So to achieve clarity, look at each word very, very carefully, especially when you write instructions. So these are the words which create some kind of problem. Now I have a small exercise for you. We have understood a few principles. Keeping those principles in mind, uh, I request you to do this exercise. Production in H declined in November. This decline was because of 3 holidays on account of Diwali. Additionally, declared holidays, etc. I have highlighted some words: declined, decline, holidays, holidays. So you can pay attention to that, and then try to rewrite the sentence so that you can reduce the length of it. I'll give you a 30-40 seconds time to try this exercise. Yes, there is a concept, while writing sentences, which is called uh, overlapping sentences. If you talk about decline in one sentence, and then if you use the same word to start the next sentence, it is called overlapping sentences. Here you are talking about holidays, again you are going back to the holidays. So this will irritate the listener, and this will force you to make your communication very long. So to avoid this, you can rewrite the sentence in this way. Production in HE declined in November because 5 working days were lost due to Diwali and local strike. So this is called overlapping sentences, and you can avoid such sentences. Now, next feature of technical writing is the use of abbreviations. Now, just to save the time, I have combined a few points here. The moment somebody says RAC, or you write RAC somewhere, the listener will immediately have a question. What is this RAC? Now, RAC can be expanded as refrigeration and air conditioning, reservation against a cancellation. If the person is an accountant, he will understand it as reservation. Or in colleges, they call it regional assessment center. So your college professor will understand RAC as regional assessment center. So one of the features of technical writing is that you will have to use a lot of abbreviations, but if you think that this abbreviation will be confusing for the listener, then you must expand it. This is the rule. So nobody will tell you that you should use abbreviations or you should not use abbreviations. You have to take the decision. If you are talking to a group of non-experts, then you have to expand. If you are talking to a group of, or if you are writing to a group of experts, then you can use the abbreviations. Now let us say, regarding the same point, I have some more clarification. You are writing a notice to the trainees. Now the clue word here, the important word here is trainees. Trainees are not supposed to be experts. They are not familiar with the situation. So when you want to draw the attention of the trainees, and if you put an instruction like this, you are not communicating effectively. All right. So SDPC, HAC, Catch 22, OCS, Mervin, no. The trainees will not be able to understand. So this is a clear-cut violation of the principle of technical writing. All right. But let us say you are writing the same information in a different way. Some of the links were not connected, so the trainees will not be able to run all the software. This is enough. The trainees will understand it. So your communication becomes successful. Now let's look at another situation. You are writing a note to the inspection team. So when you say inspection team, then it's quite obvious that the team will be made of experts, or at least informed people. So in this note, you can write this very, very clearly. You can use STPC, HAC, ICAS 27 because the inspection team is supposed to know all these things. You don't have to, explain this to them. If you explain this, perhaps they will misunderstand. They will react by saying, "Humko ye bhi malum nahi hai kya? We don't understand this or what? Why do you underestimate our intelligence?" So it's like that. So the use of abbreviations and jargon. Jargon is a list of words or a group of words used by experts to communicate with another group of experts. So the use of abbreviations and jargons are allowed or not allowed depending on the situation and the receiver. So technical writing will be evaluated on the basis of this also. Now, I'm highlighting the important features of communication. Sorry, the network is slightly weak. So the process of communication is printed here in the form of a paragraph. How many of you would like to read this paragraph and understand the process of communication? This is not something new. This is something which you have studied in the first semester or second semester in your degree. Your communication skills teacher must have explained to you the process of communication, the barriers in communication, etc. So this paragraph will definitely discourage an engineer to read and understand. You know, we don't like to look at a paragraph and read. Instead, if you put a diagram like this, the receiver will be very, very happy. All right. Instead of reading this paragraph on any day, you will be comfortable with a diagram like this. So the last feature of technical communication is use a lot of pictures, use graphics, not in a mechanical way, not because you don't want to write, because it is very effective in all kinds of communication, especially in technical communication. So this is the final feature of communication. Okay. Now I have a small exercise for you. Once again, you can note down the points. As we noted in the preceding section, purchase additional printer options. You must verify that you installed it correctly. This is a simple exercise, but what the exercise is about, I have not told you. Look at these underlined words: preceding, purchased, options, verify, etc. I don't know how many of you get disturbed by the use of these words. If you get disturbed by these words for the right reason, then I'll be very happy about it. Okay. Now, what is the difference between, let's look at the last one. You must verify that you installed it correctly. The word verify is a slightly interesting word because this word verify is mostly used by auditors, not by common people. Okay. Purchased is the word which is used by perhaps accounts people and stores people, not by ordinary people. Preceding is a word used by, let us say, writers or something, not by common people. Option is a word used by engineers, not by common people. So this particular sentence uses words which are used mostly by accountants, stores people, auditors, and maybe engineers. If you are writing some document, maybe technical document, no doubt, but your audience is going to be common people like the public or the customers of a bank or the customers of a shopping center, etc. You have to be very critical and use words which people use in their common language, which is this. Now look at it. Previous is a word used by common people. Bought is a common word. Equipment and check. So just because we are engineers, just because we are preparing a technical document, we are not allowed to use the words used by experts if your audience is going to be a common people. If your audience is going to be made of, let us say, the general public. So we must know the difference between living language and the library language. Sometimes technical communication or technical writing has to use library language. But if the audience is going to be common people, we must learn to use what is called the living language. Living language means the language used by the common people in common places like the theater, market, bank, etc. So we should never be on the wrong side all the time. Just because it is technical writing, we cannot ignore the audience level and audience expectation. Okay? Now I'm going to show some sentences. You identify the word which may cause confusion. Okay, if you just identify the word, it is enough. And if you get any related question, please note it down. After this section, I'll open the question answer box. You can type a few questions which I'll be able to answer. Then we go to the next section. The lockdown may be extended for some more time. Of course, there is no message in this. This is only an exercise. I hope most of you have underlined this word, some more time. This is against the principle of clarity. People will understand the word more time in their own way. So this communication is not clear. Another exercise. On the left side, you have on the left side, you have redundant expressions. On the right side, I want you to think of brief expressions. I'll give you maybe 30 seconds to complete this exercise.
Sir, your next exercise is not visible.
This in the this table is not visible.
Yeah, it is visible now.
Okay.
Now it is non-parallel construction and parallel
No.
construction.
What is now? What is appearing now?
Redundant and
Yes,
brief.
yes.
Is
This
it?
is what I have given. Okay, let us look at it. In the year 2018, we can simply write it as in 2018. Nobody will misunderstand it as anything else other than a year. Introduced a new. You can introduce only a new thing. So introduced is enough. At the present time, we can substitute that with one word now. Basic and fundamentals, they are redundant. Without my explanation, you can understand. Okay. So we have to be a little careful in this way. Then a very important two concepts which I am going to talk about while preparing technical documents or maybe any document which you prepare. There's a concept called parallel construction. I have noticed this mistake in many cases in many young people, so I thought I would introduce this to you. On the left hand side, you have non-parallel construction like advantages of computers, internet browsing, promote sales, analyzing data, managing finance. I have called it, I have grouped them under non-parallel construction. How many of you are able to understand why it is called a non-parallel? Just look at it critically for a few seconds. We call it non-parallel because the first point is in the form of noun, the second point is in the form of verb, third point again in the form of noun but starting with ing, that is called gerund or something, and fourth is also like that. So we have one noun form, one verb form, and two gerund forms or ing forms. This will not trouble perhaps most of us because for us English is not the first language. But if you are communicating with people whose mother tongue is English, definitely they will be disturbed. Because when you give the first point in the form of noun, they will expect the second point also in the form of noun. If you change it, there will be a disturbance. Okay. So we have to convert the whole thing in one form or in one parallel form. So if you start with internet browsing, that is a noun form, then the second also should be in the noun form, which is sales promotion. So third one will be data analysis, and fourth is financial management. Okay. So this is a very important thing in technical writing, some concept which you can keep in mind. The next concept is proper coordination and subordination. Coordination means keeping the points at the same level. Subordination is the subpoint must be given some other number and subordinated with reference to indentation. Indentation means keeping away from the left margin. So if you look at the example, it will be very clear. First point is computers, beginning of new era, good. Second point, applications. Third point, education, industries, and then we are talking about advantages and disadvantages. Now, I say that this is improper coordination and subordination. And on the right side, I have given you the outline, how to make it proper. So I'm suggesting that there are only 3 points and 2 sub points. I'll give you 30 seconds, look at it, and then try to put it in the proper way. Yes. First point is computers, no doubt. Second point, applications. Then applications has 2 sub points. So A is education, B industries. And third point is advantages and disadvantages. In technical writing, there is an unwritten rule that you cannot separate advantages and disadvantages as 2 different points. You must discuss them as one unit. Okay, so you cannot have chapter number 5 advantages, chapter number 6 disadvantages. Chapter number 5 should be called advantages and disadvantages, because there is a risk that people will read only the advantages and may skip the disadvantage, because it is a separate chapter or separate point. So this is this rule is not written anywhere, but this is a tradition followed by all people. So fifth and sixth point will be combined as advantages and disadvantages. So if in future, if there is any doubt about this, you can discuss with your professor or you can discuss with your boss and then come to some conclusion. If your boss insists that advantages and disadvantages should be separate, please follow your boss advice. Don't quote me at that time, because he is going to pay your salary. Okay, that is called corporate smartness. Now our next section is process of technical writing. Before I start this, I would like to start the question answer box, and I would like to uh, answer a few questions if you have. Okay, one second. Sakra, yes, I am opening this question and answer section.